With so much turmoil in the world, sometimes it is difficult to peer through the darkness and see the light surrounding us. Thankfully, there are saints who, through their teachings, have enabled us to find the inner peace we all so desperately seek. Paramahansa Yogananda is one such guru who truly lived the life of a saint. Paramahansa Yogananda, with the given name of Mukundalal Ghosh, was born January 5th, 1893 and died on March 7th, 1952. Yogananda was an Indian monk, a yogi and a guru who introduced millions of people the world over to the teachings of meditation and Kriya Yoga through his organization, the Self-Realization Fellowship. Yogananda published his book Autobiography of a Yogi back in 1946, and to this day it remains on Harper San Francisco's list of the 100 best spiritual books of the 20th century. Few written works have offered as much inspiration and introspection as Yogananda's book, and as a result, it has been regularly reprinted and is known fondly as the book that changed the lives of millions. Autobiography of a Yogi is easily the most popular among Yogananda's many books. According to Philip Goldberg, author of American Veda, the Self-Realization Fellowship, which represents Yogananda's legacy, is justified in using the slogan, "The book that changed the lives of millions." It has sold 4 million copies and counting. During 2006, the book's publisher, Self-Realization Fellowship, celebrated the 60th anniversary of Autobiography of a Yogi with a series of projects designed to promote the legacy of the man thousands of disciples still refer to as Master. Autobiography of a Yogi details Yogananda's spiritual search for enlightenment, in addition to his numerous run-ins with significant spiritual figures such as Therese Newman, Anandamayi Ma, Vishuddhananda Paramhansa, and Mohandas Gandhi. The book is dedicated to the memory of Luther Burbank, an American saint, famous Indian scientist Sir Jagdish Chandra Bose, and Nobel laureate in physics Sir C.V. Raman. One consequential chapter of this book is the Law of Miracles, in which he gives scientific explanations for what were thought to be miraculous feats. He writes, "The word impossible is becoming less prominent in man's vocabulary." The book has been an inspiration for many people, including luminaries such as George Harrison, Ravi Shankar, and Steve Jobs. In the book Steve Jobs, a Biography, the author writes that Jobs first read the autobiography as a teenager. He reread it in India, and later, while preparing for a trip, he downloaded it onto his iPad too, and then reread it once a year ever since. A proud member of a Hindu family, Yogananda was born in Gorakhpur, Uttar Pradesh, India. According to his younger brother, Sananda, even at his youngest, Mukunda's awareness and experience of the spiritual was far beyond ordinary. Some have gone on to even classify it as extraordinary. His father, Bhagavati Charan Ghosh, served as the vice president of the Bengal Nagpur Railway, and due to the constant travelling brought about by his job, he would move his family to several cities during Yogananda's childhood. These cities included Lahore, Bareilly, and Kolkata. His father would buy him train passes for his many childhood sightseeing adventures to faraway cities and, of course, pilgrimage spots. During his childhood, he learnt about many of India's Hindu sages and saints, including the Soham Tiger Swami, Gandha Baba, and Mahendranath Gupta. Yoganand was hoping that he would find himself an illumined teacher to guide him along in his spiritual quest. Upon graduating high school, Yoganand formally left his home and joined a Mahamandal hermitage in Varanasi. However, he soon became unhappy with its insistence on organizational work instead of meditation and God perception. Like many of us do, Yoganand began praying for guidance. It was in 1910 when his search for a teacher ended, when, at the age of 17, he met the man who would become his guru, Swami Sri Yukteswar Giri. In his book, Yoganand describes his first meeting with Sri Yukteswar as a reigniting of a relationship that had lasted for several lifetimes. We entered a oneness of silence. Words seemed the rankest superfluities. Eloquence flowed in the soundless chant from heart of master to disciple. With an antenna of irrefragable insight, I sensed that my guru knew God and would lead me to him. The obscuration of this life disappeared in a fragile dawn of prenatal memories. Dramatic time, past, present, and future are its cycling scenes. This was not the first son to find me at these holy feet. Yoganand would go on to train under Sri Yukteswar as his disciple for the next 10 years from 1910 through 1920 at his hermitages in Serampore and Puri. Later on, Sri Yukteswar informed Yoganand that an important task was at hand. He had been sent to him by the great guru of their lineage, Mahavatar Babaji, for a special purpose: worldwide dissemination of yoga. After acing his intermediate examination in arts from the Scottish Church College, Calcutta in June 1915, Yoganand graduated with a degree similar to a current-day Bachelor of Arts or BA from Serampore College. The college having two entities, one as a constituent college of the Senate of Serampore College and the other as an affiliated college of the University of Calcutta. This allowed Yoganand to spend time at Yukteswar's ashram in Serampore. It was in 1915 that he took formal vows into the monastic Swami Order and became Swami Yogananda Giri. Shortly thereafter, in 1917, Yoganand founded a school for boys in Dihika, West Bengal, that mixed modern educational techniques with yoga training and spiritual ideals. After a year, the school was relocated to Ranchi. One of the school's initial group of pupils was his youngest brother, Bishnu Charan Ghosh, who learnt yoga asanas there and in turn taught asanas to Bikram Chaudhary. Yoganand's school would later become known as the Yogadas Satsang Society of India, the Indian branch of Yoganand's American organization, Self-Realization Fellowship. It was in 1920 that Yoganand travelled to the United States aboard a ship known as City of Sparta. He arrived there, assuming the role of India's delegate to an international congress of religious liberals convening in Boston. The same year, he founded the SRF, the Self-Realization Fellowship, to distribute his worldwide teachings on India's ancient practices and philosophy of yoga and its tradition of meditation. For the next few years, he taught and lectured on the East Coast until 1924. He decided to embark on a cross-continental speaking tour. Thousands of curious patrons, followers and soon-to-be followers would file into his always crowded lectures. It was within this time period that he garnered a number of celebrity followers, including soprano Amelita Gali Kurci, tenor Vladimir Rozin, and Clara Clemens Gavrilovich, who was the daughter of Mark Twain. It wasn't long before he established an international center for self-realization fellowship in Los Angeles, California. This center became the spiritual and administrative heart of his growing work. Yoganand was the first ever Hindu teacher of yoga to spend a major portion of his life in America. He lived in the United States for over 3 decades, from 1920 to 1952, and only left to embark on an extended trip abroad from 1935 to 1936 to visit his guru in India, though he did make trips to other living Western saints, such as Therese Newman, the Catholic stigmatist of Connersreuth, and places of spiritual importance while en route. There was a time, however, when this man of peace was being watched closely for all the wrong reasons. Yoganand was added to a government watch list and kept under surveillance by the FBI and the British authorities. The US and Britain were concerned about the growing independence movement in India. A secret file was kept on him from the years 1926 until 1937 due to concern over his religious and moral practices. In 1935, Yoganand returned to India to visit his guru Yukteswar Giri and to help establish his Yoga Satsang work there. During this visit, he met with the great Mahatma Gandhi and introduced him into the liberating technique of Kriya Yoga because Gandhi expressed his interest to receive the Kriya Yoga of Lahiri Mahasaya. While staying in India, Yukteswar gave Yoganand the monastic title of Paramhansa. Paramhansa translates to Supreme Swan and is a title indicating the highest spiritual attainment. In the year 1936, while Yoganand was visiting Calcutta, Yukteswar attained Mahasamadhi, or final soul liberation, in the town of Puri. After returning to the United States, Yoganand continued to lecture, write, and open churches in Southern California. He lived at the SRF Hermitage in Encinitas, California, which was a surprise gift from his disciple Rajarsi Janakanand. It was while at this hermitage that Yoganand wrote his famous Autobiography of a Yogi and other writings. Also at this time, he created an enduring foundation for the spiritual and humanitarian work of Self-Realization Fellowship, Yoga Satsang Society of India. It was there that Yoganand wrote out his aims and ideals. They are to disseminate among the nations a knowledge of definite scientific techniques for attaining direct personal experience of God. To teach that the purpose of life is the evolution, through self-effort, of man's limited mortal consciousness into God consciousness. And to this end, to establish self-realization fellowship temples for God communion throughout the world, and to encourage the establishment of individual temples of God in the homes and in the hearts of men. To reveal the complete harmony and basic oneness of original Christianity as taught by Jesus Christ and original yoga as taught by Bhagwan Krishna, and to show that these principles of truth are the common scientific foundation of all true religions. To point out the one divine highway to which all paths of true religious beliefs eventually lead. The highway of daily, scientific, devotional meditation on God. to liberate man from his threefold suffering: physical disease, mental inharmonies, and spiritual ignorance. To encourage plain living and high thinking, and to spread a spirit of brotherhood among all peoples by teaching the eternal basis of their unity, kinship with God, to demonstrate the superiority of mind over body, of soul over mind, to overcome evil by good, sorrow by joy, cruelty by kindness, ignorance by wisdom, to unite science and religion through realization of the unity of their underlying principles, to advocate cultural and spiritual understanding between East and West, and the exchange of their finest distinctive features, to serve mankind as one's larger self. In his published work, The Self-Realization Fellowship Lessons, Yogananda offers his in-depth instruction in the practice of the highest yoga science of God realization. That ancient science is embodied within the meditation techniques and the specific principles of Kriya Yoga. Yogananda taught his students of the need for the direct practice of truth, as opposed to blind belief. Yogananda said that the true basis of religion is not belief, but intuitive experience. Intuition is the soul's power of knowing God. To know what religion is really all about, one must know God. In line with the more traditional Hindu teachings, Yogananda instructed his followers that the entire universe was God's cosmic motion picture, and that we are all merely actors in the divine play, who possess the ability to change their roles via reincarnation. Yogananda maintained that mankind's deep suffering is rooted in the identifying too closely with one's current role, rather than with the movie's director or God. The reason that Yogananda taught Kriya Yoga and other meditation practices was to help people open themselves to the understanding that he called self-realization. Self-realization is the knowing in body, mind, and soul that we are one with the omnipresence of God, that we do not have to pray that it come to us, that we are not merely near it at all times, but that God's omnipresence is our omnipresence, and that we are just as much a part of Him now as we ever will be. All we have to do is improve our knowing. The science of Kriya Yoga is the foundation of Yogananda's teachings. Kriya Yoga is union or yoga with the infinite through a certain action or rite, which is known as Kriya. The Sanskrit root of Kriya is Kri, to do, to act, and react. Kriya Yoga was passed down through Yogananda's guru lineage. Mahavatar Babaji taught Kriya Yoga to Lahiri Mahasaya, who taught it to his disciple Yukteswar Giri, Yogananda's guru. Yogananda gave a general description of Kriya Yoga in his Autobiography. The Kriya Yogi mentally directs his life energy to revolve upward and downward around the 6 spinal centers: medullary, cervical, dorsal, lumbar, sacral, and coccygeal plexuses, which correspond to the 12 astral signs of the zodiac, the symbolic cosmic man. 1/2 minute of revolution of energy around the sensitive spinal cord of man effects subtle progress in his evolution. That half-minute of Kriya equals 1 year of natural spiritual unfoldment. Sri Mridalini Mata, the former president of SRF-YSS, once said, "Kriya Yoga is so effective, so complete, because it brings God's love, the universal power through which God draws all souls back to reunion with Him, into operation in the devotee's life." Yogananda wrote in Autobiography of a Yogi that the actual technique should be learnt from an authorized Kriya Yogi known as Kriyaban of Self-Realization Fellowship or Yoga Satsang Society of India. Kriya Yoga is recounted by its practitioners as the ancient yoga system revived in modern times by Mahavatar Babaji through his disciple Lahiri Mahasaya. Kriya Yoga gained international recognition by Paramahansa Yogananda's book Autobiography of a Yogi and through Yogananda's introductions of the practice to the West from 1920. Simply put, Kriya Yoga is the yoga of action. According to Yogananda, the ancient yogic text in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali contains a description of Kriya Yoga in the second chapter, 2.49. Liberation can be attained by that pranayam which is accomplished by disjoining the course of inspiration and expiration. The Kriya Yoga system is comprised of a number of levels of pranayam, mantra and mudra based on techniques intended to rapidly move towards spiritual development and enter a profound state of tranquility and God communion. Yogananda attributes his description of Kriya Yoga to his lineage of gurus, Sri Yukteswar Giri, Lahiri Mahasaya and Mahavatar Babaji. The latter is said to have introduced the concept as essentially the same as the Raja Yoga of Patanjali and the idea of yoga as described in the Bhagavad Gita. Kriya Yoga, as taught by Lahiri Mahasaya, is for the most part exclusively learnt via the guru-disciple relationship, and the initiation consists of a confidential ceremony. The process of performing Kriya Yoga is said to lead to a purification of one's blood, which in turn will free up the life force to withdraw its way into one's spine. Kriya Yoga is a simple psychophysiological method by which the human blood is decarbonized and recharged with oxygen. The atoms of this extra oxygen are transmuted into life current to rejuvenate the brain and spinal centers. By stopping the accumulation of venous blood, the yogi is able to lessen or prevent the decay of tissues. The advanced yogi transmutes his cells into pure energy. Elijah, Jesus, Kabir, and other prophets were past masters in the use of Kriya or a similar technique, by which they caused their bodies to materialize and dematerialize at will. Swami Satyananda wrote, Kriya sadhana may be thought of as the sadhana of the practice of being in Atman. Yogananda wrote in God Talks with Arjuna, the Bhagavad Gita is the science of Kriya Yoga that was given to Manu, the first man according to the Vedas, and through him to Janaka and other royal sages. According to Yogananda, Kriya Yoga was very popular in ancient India but was eventually lost because of priestly secrecy and man's indifference. Yogananda says that Krishna is referring to Kriya Yoga in the Bhagavad Gita, offering inhaling breath into the outgoing breath and offering the outgoing breath into the inhaling breath. The yogi neutralizes both these breaths. He thus releases the life force from the heart and brings it under his control. Yogananda also said that Krishna was talking about Kriya Yoga when Krishna relates that it was he, in a former incarnation, who communicated the indestructible yoga to an ancient Illuminato, Vivasvat, who gave it to Manu, the great legislator. He, in turn, instructed Ikshvaku, the father of India's solar warrior dynasty. Yogananda intimated that Patanjali wrote about the Kriya technique when he wrote, "Liberation can be achieved by that pranayam which is accomplished by disjoining the course of inspiration and expiration." A direct disciple of Sri Yukteswar Giri, Sailendra Das Gupta, has written that Kriya entails several acts that have evidently been adapted from the Gita, the Yoga Sutras, Tantra Shastras, and from conceptions on the Yugas. The Bhagavad Gita doesn't teach Kriya Yoga by name, though Yogananda has said that the application was related there. According to Paramahansa Yogananda, in his book God Talks with Arjuna, the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes Kriya Yoga as by the concentrated practice of Kriya Yoga Pranayam, offering the inhaling breath into the exhaling breath. The act of doing so is known as prana into apana, and offering the exhaling breath into the inhaling breath, or apana into prana. The yogi neutralizes these two life currents and their resulting mutations of decay and growth, the causative agents of breath and heart action, and concomitant body consciousness. By recharging the blood and cells with life energy that has been distilled from breath and reinforced with the pure spiritualized life force in the spine and brain, the Kriya Yogi stops bodily decay, thereby quieting the breath and heart by rendering their purifying actions unnecessary. The yogi thus attains conscious life force control. The Bihar school of yoga teaches similar techniques of Kriya Yoga and maintains that the accounts of Kriya Yoga in the Yoga Sutras and the Bhagavad Gita aren't at all related. The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali 2.1 defines 3 types of actions known as Kriyas. The yoga of action, known as Kriya Yoga, is asceticism or tapas, recitation or svadhyaya, and devotion known as pranidhana to the Lord known as Ishvara. The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali are a compilation of the 196 Indian sutras or aphorisms on the theory and practice of yoga. The Yoga Sutras were organized before the year 400 CE by Patanjali, who integrated and categorized knowledge about yoga that was learned from older traditions. The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali was the most translated ancient Indian text in the medieval era. It has been translated into around 40 Indian languages, as well as 2 non-Indian languages, Old Javanese and Arabic. The text fell pretty much into obscurity for almost 700 years, from the 12th to 19th century. It then made a comeback in late 19th century because of the efforts of Swami Vivekananda, the Theosophical Society, and many others. The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali gained prominence again as a comeback classic in the 20th century. Before the 20th century began, history shows that the medieval Indian yoga scene was dominated by the various other texts such as the Bhagavad Gita and the Yoga Vasishtha, texts attributed to Yajnavalkya and Hiranyagarbha, as well as literature on Hatha Yoga, Tantric Yoga, and Pashupata Shaivism Yoga, rather than the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Hindu Orthodox tradition maintains the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali to be one of the foundational texts of classical yoga philosophy. But the usage and misusage of the Yoga Sutras and the influence that it had on later systematizations of yoga have been questioned by scholars such as David Gordon White and reaffirmed by others such as SOAS University of London scholar James Mallinson. Today's yoga scholars such as Philip A. Maas and Mallinson consider the Bhasya study on the sutras to be Patanjali's own, and the sutras to be his summary of more ancient yoga accounts. The combined document is thus thought to be a single work known as the Patanjala Yoga Sastra. The Yoga Sutras are usually viewed as a compilation of multiple traditions of yoga. According to Dr. George Furstein, PhD, a German Indologist specializing in the philosophy and praxis of yoga, the Yoga Sutras are a mixture of two different traditions, namely 8-limb yoga, known as Ashtanga Yoga, and action yoga or Kriya Yoga. The description of the 8 limbs being an interpolation into the text on Kriya. According to Furstein, Kriya Yoga is contained in Chapter 1, Chapter 2 verses 1 through 27, Chapter 3 except verse 54, and Chapter 4. The 8-limb yoga is described in Chapter 2 verses 28 through 55 and Chapter 3 verse 3 and 54. According to celebrated Kundalini Yoga teacher Kia Miller, Kriya Yoga is the active performance of yoga. It is built of part of the niyamas, observances, the second limb of Patanjali's 8 limbs. Miller says that Kriya Yoga is a threefold discipline which involves ascetic practice, the study and chanting of sacred hymns and syllables, and of course, dedication to God. Miller also indicates that some commentators regard the first 5 limbs together as Kriya Yoga, but that Patanjali himself has said that Kriya Yoga is to be a subset of the second limb. The tale of Lahiri Mahasaya getting initiated into Kriya Yoga by the yogi Mahavatar Babaji in 1861 is told in Autobiography of a Yogi. Yogananda wrote that during that meeting, Mahavatar Babaji told Lahiri Mahasaya, "The Kriya Yoga that I am giving to the world through you in this 19th century is a revival of the same science that Krishna gave millenniums ago to Arjuna and was later known to Patanjali and Christ and to St. John, St. Paul and other disciples." Yoganand also wrote that Babaji and Christ were in continual communion and together have planned the spiritual technique of salvation for this age. Through Lahiri Mahasaya, Kriya Yoga soon cast a wide net throughout India. Yogananda, a disciple of Sri Yukteswar Giri, who was himself a disciple of Lahiri Mahasaya, then sought to bring Kriya Yoga to the United States and Europe during the 20th century. Lahiri Mahasaya's disciples included his two sons, Dukkodi Lahiri and Tinkodi Lahiri, Sri Yukteswar Giri, Panchanan Bhattacharya, Swami Pranab Anand, Swami Kebalanand, Keshavananda Brahmachari, Bhupendranath Sanyal, also known as Sanyal Mahasaya, and many others. The final 4 years of Yoganand's life was spent mostly in seclusion. He was surrounded by a few of his inner circle of disciples at his desert ashram in 29 Palms, California. It was here that he planned to finish his writings and to finish revising books, articles, and lessons written previously over the years. During this time period, Yoganand gave very few interviews and severely cut back on his public lectures. He told his close disciples, "I can do much more now to reach others with my pen." In the days leading up to his death, Yogananda knew that his end was near, and he began hinting to his disciples that it was time for him to leave the world. On March 7th of 1952, he attended a banquet for the visiting Indian ambassador to the US, Binoy Ranjan Sen, and his wife at the Biltmore Hotel in Los Angeles. At the end of the dinner, Yoganand spoke of India and America, their contributions to world peace and human progress, and their future cooperation. He expressed his hope for a united world that would serve to combine the best qualities of efficient America and spiritual India. According to an eyewitness who was present, Daya Mata, a direct disciple of Yoganand, who was head of the Self-Realization Fellowship from 1955 to 2010. As Yoganand ended his speech, he read from his poem, My India, and concluded with the words, "Where Ganges, woods, Himalayan caves, and men dream God, I am hallowed, my body touched that sod." As he uttered these words, he lifted his eyes to the Kuthastha center, the Agya Chakra or spiritual eye, and his body slumped to the floor. Followers say that he entered Mahasamadhi. The official cause of death was deemed heart failure. Yoganand's funeral service was attended by hundreds of friends and followers. It was held at the SRF headquarters atop Mount Washington in Los Angeles. Rajarsi Janakananda, the new president of the Self-Realization Fellowship, performed a sacred ritual, releasing the body to God. Yoganand's mortal remains are entombed at the Forest Lawn Memorial Park in the Great Mausoleum. His remains are normally closed off to visitors, but Yoganand's tomb is accessible in Glendale, California. Even after his passing, Yoganand's story led to even more wondrous speculations. As reported in Time magazine on August 4th of 1952, Los Angeles mortuary director Harry T. Rowe of the Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California, where Yoganand's body was received, embalmed, and interred, stated in a notarized letter, "The absence of any visual signs of decay in the dead body of Paramahansa Yogananda offers the most extraordinary case in our experience. No physical disintegration was visible in his body even 20 days after death. No indication of mold was visible on his skin, and no visible drying up took place in the bodily tissues. This state of perfect preservation of a body is, so far as we know from mortuary annals, an unparalleled one. No odor of decay emanated from his body at any time. Because of two statements in Rose's letter, some have debated whether or not the term incorruptibility is appropriate. First, in Rose's 4th paragraph, he stated, "For protection of the public health, embalming is desirable if a dead body is to be exposed for several days to public view." Embalming of the body of Paramahansa Yogananda took place 24 hours after his demise. Then, in the 11th paragraph, he stated that, "On the late morning of March 26th, we observed a very slight, a barely noticeable change. The appearance on the tip of the nose of a brown spot, about 1/4 inch in diameter. This small faint spot indicated that the process of desiccation might finally be starting. No visible mold appeared, however." Even though he is no longer with us physically, Yogananda's spiritual existence cannot be denied and is just as prevalent today as it has ever been. The YSS, Yoga Satsang Society of India, is a non-profit religious organization founded by Yogananda more than 100 years ago in 1917. In countries outside the Indian subcontinent, it is known as the Self-Realization Fellowship. Yogananda's teachings are continued through this organization. The Self-Realization Fellowship, Yoga Satsang Society of India. Yogananda himself founded the Yoga Satsang Society of India in 1917 and then expanded it in 1920 to the United States, naming it the Self-Realization Fellowship. In the year 1935, he legally incorporated it in America to serve as his tool for the preservation and worldwide distribution of his teachings. Yogananda indicated his intentions again in 1939 in his magazine Inner Culture for Self-Realization that he published through his organization. Paramahansa Swami Yogananda renounced all his ownership rights in the Self-Realization Fellowship when it was incorporated as a non-profit religious organization under the laws of California, March 29, 1935. At that time, he turned over to the fellowship all of his rights to and income from the sale of his books, writings, magazine, lectures, classes, property, automobiles, and all other possessions. SRF-YSS is based in Los Angeles and has grown to include over 500 temples and centers around the world. It has members in over 175 countries, including the Self-Realization Fellowship Lake Shrine. In India, as well as in surrounding countries, Paramahansa Yogananda's teachings are spread by YSS, which has over 100 centers, ashrams and retreats. Rajarsi Janakananda was picked by Yogananda to become the president of SRF-YSS in his absence. Dayamata, a religious leader and a direct disciple of Yogananda, was personally chosen and trained by Yogananda, was to lead the Self-Realization Fellowship, Yoga Satsang Society of India from 1955 to 2010. Mrinalini Mata, a direct disciple of Yogananda, served as the president and spiritual head of Self-Realization Fellowship Yoga Satsang Society of India from January 9th, 2011 until her death on August 3rd, 2017. She too was personally picked and trained by Yoganand to help guide the widespread distribution of his teachings after his death. On August 30th, 2017, Brother Chidanand was elected as the next president in a unanimous vote by the SRF Board of Directors. India released a commemorative stamp in honor of Yoganand back in the year 1977. On March 7th, 2017, the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, released another commemorative postage stamp celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Yoga Satsang Society of India. Prime Minister Modi at Vigyan Bhavan in New Delhi appreciated Yoganand for extending the message of India's spirituality to foreign lands. Modi said that even though Yoganand left the shores of India to spread his message, he has always remained connected with India. Paramahansa Yogananda has also deeply impressed today's younger generations, which is surrounded by materialism and competition. Achieving prosperity and success on an international level amidst a fierce struggle. Many younger people credit their accomplishments to Paramahansaji's Autobiography of a Yogi. This book still illumines the right course for all to follow in life. It's that very course, that light that shines brightly upon even the darkest of pathways, which possess the ability to bring us all to the points in our life that we strive to reach, the moments of perfection, the moments of enlightenment, the moment of inner peace, which only a great man and teacher such as Paramahansa Yogananda can help us find. These times and teachings which make our lives worth living.